It's about 5 minutes before the end of your session. Your client has covered a lot of ground today. They explored their challenge, discovered some patterns, designed some actions. And now you're looking at the clock thinking, what do we do with these last few minutes? This is the moment many coaches fumble. They either rush through some kind of wrap up or they skip it entirely. And in doing so, they miss one of the most powerful parts of the whole session. Here's what I see happen all the time. The clock is winding down. Your client has done significant work. They've explored challenges, discovered patterns, maybe even designed some meaningful actions. And then nothing. The session just ends. Or worse, the coach jumps in with their own summary of what happened. Both approaches miss the point. This final stretch of the session, it's not throwaway time. It's an opportunity to solidify everything that came before. And most coaches don't realize what they're leaving on the table. ICF puts it this way in Marker 8.06. Partners with the client to summarize learning and insight within or between sessions. Notice that key phrase, partners with, not summarizes for, not tells them what they learned. Partners with. In this video, we're focusing on the within sessions piece, creating that space for reflection before the session ends. The between sessions part, that's coming next. But first, let's get clear on what partnership actually looks like in those final minutes. So what does partnership mean here? It means you create the invitation and the space together. You don't summarize on their behalf. You don't tell them what they learned. That's doing the work for them, and it robs them of the ownership. Instead, you ask them to name their own learning and insights. Think of it this way. You open the door, they walk through it and claim their progress. That's partnership. You're not the one holding the gift. You're creating the space for them to unwrap it themselves. Here's why this matters so much. When the client articulates their own learning, it consolidates their progress. It brings sharp focus to what matters most from everything they explored. And here's the critical piece. When they name it, they own it. The learning becomes truly theirs. But what you say for them, that may fade. They might nod along, but it doesn't stick the same way. The way to solidify learning is not for the coach to tell the client what they learned. Let them do the work. Their words become their commitment. So what do you actually ask? Here are some powerful options. For a discovery focus, what are the highlights of what you've discovered today? For a progress focus, what progress have you made during our time together? For a movement focus, where are you now compared to where you started this session? Or sometimes a direct invitation works best. Summarize for me. Just give me the highlights of your learning. Notice how each of these invites them to reflect. You're not asking yes or no questions. You're creating space for them to articulate what shifted. One of my favorites is this. Looking at where you've been in this session today, what have you learned? It's an invitation to step back and see the whole picture. You can also say, just give me the highlights of what progress you've made right now. Or, where are you in the process and what have you discovered along the way? These questions aren't tests. They're gifts. You're giving them the opportunity to claim their own growth. And when they do, that's when the learning really solidifies. Let's talk about timing. This typically happens in those final 5 to 10 minutes. That's when you can capture the full session learning. But it can also happen at natural break points. Maybe you've just finished exploring one topic and you're about to shift to another. That's a great moment to pause and ask what they're taking away. This is especially useful when sessions cover several distinct areas or decisions. And here's the thing, you have to build time in for this. Never rush it. Protect at least 5 minutes minimum for meaningful reflection. If you find yourself scrambling at the end, you waited too long to start. Let's be direct about what doesn't work. Summarizing for the client instead of with them, that's the big one. You might think you're being helpful, but you're actually taking their ownership away. Skipping summarization because you're running low on time, that's sacrificing the consolidation of everything you've built together. Making it feel like a test rather than a celebration. That shifts the energy completely. This should feel like honoring their work, not quizzing them on it, and telling them what they learned instead of asking. That's doing the work for them. Invite them to reflect on their own progress and insights. That's the move. Here's the bottom line. The client who names their learning owns their learning. Your job isn't to summarize for them. Your job is to create the space for that naming to happen. You invite reflection, and you hold the space, and you let their insights emerge in their own words. But what about learning that happens between sessions? How do you invite clients to share that without taking over the agenda? That's trickier than it sounds. And that's exactly what we're exploring next.